where we talk about forecasting, dashboard, analytics, performance, CFO, and all these kind of various tools and techniques and all we'll discuss here. As I mentioned, in Tm1 we have got planning, budgeting, and analysis. On top of it, in 10.2 we have got scorecarding concepts also. Like we can prepare impact diagrams, other stuff and all can be prepared in scorecarding, metric diagrams. Okay, so scorecarding is compared with your in Cognos BI with your metric studio. Whatever you are having in your metric studio in Cognos BI, the same thing can be achieved in scorecarding also. It is not a separate tool that can be installed in your Tm1 in 10.2 version. It comes up with your performance modeler. When you install performance modeler or configure performance modeler in your machine, there will be an option for deploying scorecarding also. Okay, based upon the impact diagrams, you can prepare the metric diagram that can be handled for Tm1 project. Okay, so this is a framework which will explain you on what are all the components that are used in Tm1 for which and all cases and all. Okay, so this is a diagram where which will depict on each and every environment level what are all the activities, primarily focused activities in Tm1. When it comes to planning, we work on workforce planning, capital planning, strategic planning, project planning. These all can be achieved in Tm1. When it comes to forecasting, I mentioned as only as forecasting, but we also have got cash flow forecasting, balance sheet forecasting, periodic forecasting, rolling forecasting. All these kind of concepts are available in forecasting. When it comes to solution enhancements, as I mentioned to you that we can migrate the data and we can design development and improve templates and reports because we have got a new concept called CAFE analysis. Okay, so which is integrated with your Excel in 10.2 version, which works on 64-bit machine, and these are all the solution enhancements that you can work on. So need not to know all this stuff. At least if you're aware of 4 to 5 items before we end up the session, or before we end up the classes, it is good to go in your interview and you can survive in the industry. Okay, later on it's an ocean, so you have to learn, keep on learning Tm1. So okay, that's how I can put it across. These are all the prerequisites that can be installed, that are required to install on your machine for Tm1 implementation or development on your local machine or on any physical server. Okay, so I'll share all these details with you, and you can install Tm1 locally on your machine. It need not connect to any server, and whatever all the assignments which I'm going to give you, you can just work on that part. Okay, not only that, for if you closely observe here, I have got work instructions. For 32-bit I have a separate work instruction, and for 64-bit I have got a separate work instruction. Just follow those work instructions and make sure that the application server is running fine for you. Okay, fine. Setting up a Tm1 server. When we talk about this Tm1 server setup, it is done in 3 ways. So when you do the installation, architect is installed. So architect, you open architect here. This is 10.2.2 version. This is how the environment looks like. Server Explorer, Tm1 architect. The one which I said here, this is the blue one which is marked over here. That is admin server. That is a mother server, and that occupies the default port number 12345. Okay. Under that we can have n number of application servers. For SData, username is admin, password is Apple by default. So when you install Tm1 on your machine, and if it is a 32-bit machine, you'll have all the DLL files, exe files, and everything sitting in program 86 folder. But if it is a 64-bit machine, you'll have it in IBM, Cognos. This is for BI. This is for CAFE analysis. This is for 64. You'll have everything in bin 64-bit folder. If it is 30-bit, it will be in bin folder, but mine is a 64-bit installation on 64-bit machine. So bin 64, all the DLL files and everything is sitting over here. And on top of it, when you install Tm1, you'll have some sample application servers. These are all the sample application servers. You can configure them whichever way you want. Like that, I have configured SData here. You can see SData here. Same thing I have configured here by default. This is the data directory path. Next question you might have in your mind, sir, if I have to save data, what is the guarantee you can give me that it won't go for a toss? I won't lose the data. For that, The answer would be at regular intervals of time, we will save the data in the hard disk. See, initially the data is getting entered in the RAM memory, users are connecting to the RAM memory and they're posting the data in the RAM memory, and all these kind of activities are happening. But when it is when you're posting the data or when you're retrieving the data, uh, that's happening in the RAM memory, internal RAM memory, whatever the size of the RAM memory you have got in that machine. And at regular intervals of time, since RAM is a volatile memory, at regular intervals of time we save the data in the hard disk. It can be a local hard disk or it can be a remote hard disk also. No big deal in that. It can be saved in both of the machines. Okay, so this is an application server as data. As I said, for bifurcation of traffic, we have this application server, and every application server will have 6 Tm1 objects: applications, cubes, dimensions, replications, processes, stores. 6 Tm1 objects we have got here, and cubes. These are the sample cubes. When you open this cube, this is how you browse the data in that cube. You can expand this aggregation levels, each and every, or at a unit level or a sub-unit level, you can expand and you can post the data. Whatever you enter the data at leaf level, automatically when you click on this calculate button, that will be aggregated to the next consolidation level. That is usually how we carry out things in Tm1 environment. Okay, on the face of the cube. This is just a cube environment which I've shown you here. And as you see here, we have got processes, which is nothing but right click, create new process. It opens a turbo integrator inbuilt ETL tool. You can see the data source, ODBC, text, ODBO, Tm1 view, Cognos package. We can connect to your Cognos packages also from your turbo integrator. Your Cognos package can also act like a data source to your Tm1. Subject to, you should have a package connector. Package connector alone will cost you around $12,000. Okay, it won't come for free of cost. But there is an alternative which can be done in Cognos inside, where I will show you there to deploy the packages information into Tm1 cubes. I can show you that, but not an architect, because it comes with an additional cost here. So these are the this is the environment. Now, just to move further, let us create an application server. So the one which we see here as data, and the same thing which has been described over here also. Create as a service and create as a desktop service application. Now let us create an application server to understand more and to start with Tm1 sessions or course. Go to your data directory. This is the data directory I'm using. Create a folder here initially. Let us move on with practical session rather than just discussing on theoretical part. My folder name would be quality. In that, I would like to create 2 folders. One is for data and one is for logs. Data. I'm bifurcating the logs also here because I want to make sure that only my data is sitting in data folder and logs are sitting in log folder. Logs. Okay. And in the data folder, in order to make a connection between your Tm1 RAM memory and your hard disk, there is one file called a tm1s.configuration file. That file is available or sitting in one of these sample databases. You just go to that sample, any sample one, Control C, copy it somewhere on your desktop and reuse that. Okay, reuse it. There are 4 or 5 parameters which needs to be changed for configuring an application server, but there are around 30 parameters that we will discuss it down the lane, not here. So first one is the server name. What is the server name which you want to give? I mentioned it as quality. Quality. Next question you might have in your mind, sir, do I need to give my folder name and my server name as the same thing? Need not to be, but the fact is if you want to save your 2010 tax documents in 2016 folder, how does it look like? Make sense? You getting my point, gentlemen? Yes or no, please, in the chat session. Are you following? Yes or no, please. Is it okay up to here? Yeah. How about others? Great, thank you. So now the immediate question people will ask is, sir, if I want to save my folder name and my application server name as same thing, or if it is a different name, will it accept? It will accept with a different name also, but as I mentioned, 2016 tax documents cannot be saved in 2010 folder. Today you might remember, but tomorrow you will forget. Let us have a constructive approach and move towards it. And now that is the first server name. Server name is nothing but your application server name. It's asking for a database directory. That is nothing but where you want to copy your go to quality data. This is where you want to copy your tm1s.configuration file. Okay, just paste it over here. Okay, next is asking for admin host. Is nothing but your computer name or that IP address, or your server name wherever it is located, or that location details. This is my computer name I have provided over here. And next is server port. By default, as I mentioned, the admin server will occupy the port number 12345. The application servers will occupy the port number from 5000 to 49151, which means if anyone asks you a question, how many application servers can be handled by one admin server, theoretically you can tell them that it can be done for 44,151 application servers, because the port starts from 5000 and ends at 49,151, and the difference is 44,151 application servers. You can handle it. I'm going to show you after this. Right after this, I'll show you one small image which has got around 50-60 application servers, and you can imagine how much dependency is there on each and every application server in the business environment. Okay, now I am going to give you some default port number 9085. It should be unique. Okay, port number should not be shared. So on a summarize, if I summarize here, in tm1s.configuration file, this is a configuration file which I got from another application server, sample ones which are already available in your machine when you install tm1. I copied it on my desktop, and I have I'm not renaming that file, I'm just doing some parameter changes here. One is server name, one is database directory, one is admin host, and one is the server port. These are the changes which I have done over here. Only 4 changes. I'm saving it and Control C, and I'm pasting it over here. Pasting it over here. Okay, I've done the changes, I've pasted it over here. I'm coming out of that folder. Now I would like to create an application server. Okay, I want to have my quality underneath this as data. So I said 3 ways to create that. One is as a service, one is as a desktop application, one is a local server. Now we are talking about as a desktop application. Remaining 2 we will discuss down the lane. Local server also we'll discuss down the lane. So desktop application server. Go to Cognos configuration. IBM Cognos. Okay, here it is. It is available here. Make sure that it is not meant for BI. It is meant for TM1, because I have maintained 2 Cognos configuration files in my system, one for TM1 and one for BI. I have not shared those configuration files. If you look at it, you'll get to know. Let that open. I can see that this is for TM1 only. This is for TM1. Right click, new source, quality, click on OK, and it's asking for the configuration path. That's nothing but your 1 second. It's available over here. This is a configuration path. Just paste it over here and save it. Yes, you have access. Close. Right click. Test. Cryptographic information testing failed. That's okay. Start. The TM1 server will start now. That application server. Click on close. Go to architect. File. Refresh available servers. You see the quality here. By default, the username is admin and there is no password. You can see 6 T1 objects here: applications, cubes, dimensions, replications, processes, and chores. These are the 6 Tm1 objects which we can create, and now we have created through Cognos configuration utility file. This is Cognos configuration utility file. Quality is created over here. If you want to have, if you want to create another application server, all you have to do is you have to go to any folder, right click on that, create a new folder, subfolders data and logs. We have not given logs path, of course, but data and logs. Under the data, just place this tm1s.configuration file and then start working on going with configuration file and creating that application folder. Okay, this is the first way of creating an application folder, setting up a system. Let us, I will show you, as I mentioned, I would like to show you one small diagram. Scan 001, yeah. As you see in this, you see under one admin server how many application servers you have got. I just created only one application server here, or no, I have got only 2 application servers. But in this project, as you see, there are around 54 application servers over here which is configured. Okay, this is what we usually do in the system. Okay, that is as a desktop application server. We got this as a desktop application server. Okay, remaining 2 we'll discuss down the lane, but let us move forward and have it so okay, so here as we see in this screenshot, what are all the server components and what are all the client components. Differentiation is given over here. What will be installed on server, what will be installed on client, and you can take an advantage from this slide. What is typically installed in application tier, what is installed in web application tier, client tier, and all classification is given here, and development tier and samples and all which is given over here. Okay, so these are the user interfaces. How does it look with Tm1 web, how does it look with CAFE, Cognos Insight, as I mentioned, dashboard analysis is done, and Tm1 mobile contributor, on the fly, on the go, you can post the data into Tm1. So that classification is provided over here. Okay, so this is a mobile contributor information, only done through iPad, not through iPhone as of now, not even on Android machines, only through iPad you can have that understanding. Okay. So this is an iPad image which you can see here for retrieving the information and posting the data in the Tm1 environment. And this is a component selection. As you see here, we have got the list of all components which needs to be selected for installing Tm1 on your machine. Okay, not even on your machine, even on your server side also, these are the list of components that needs to be selected. Okay, so as a typical installation goes on in Architect, these are the things which you see. You see here 4 application servers. One is Go New Stores, local application server, planning sample, and SData. Like that, we have created 2 application servers. Under each application server, we'll have cubes and dimensions. Under cubes, we'll have views and rules. Under dimensions, we'll have subsets and elements. We'll go deeper and deeper into the subject, and we'll discuss about all those stuff. And when it comes to the cube viewer, when you open that cube, when you post the data, this is how the cube view looks like, and we can retrieve the information. If you have an idea of pivot table, this is all pivot table concept, budgeting. You can move all those cubes and dimensions. Suppose if you have a cube here, if I open a cube here, let's say purchase cube, I can move those dimensions from this location to this location and this location to this location, and I can play around with the data. See, how I want to see is my own, it all depends upon my own interest. I take that into an advantage, and I can post the data and I can retrieve that information. That we can do it in a cube viewer. So there are 2 models. As I mentioned with you, planning, budgeting, and forecasting, we have already discussed on that part. That comes with forward looking, and in the backward looking we have got reporting and analysis. So these are the 2 models we always discuss in any domain. Please understand that there is already discussed, we always discuss this in any domain. The reason is, sir, I am into manufacturing. Can I implement Tm1? Yes, we have implemented Tm1 successfully for a manufacturing company. I will show you the details. I will explain you the project, what happened in the past. So that will give you an idea. Sir, can I do it in marketing? Yeah, we can do it in marketing. Sales pipeline data. Yes, we can do it in sales pipeline data. I will explain you all that part. Okay. So input sheets and reports are meant for retrieving the information, posting the data, and this is a primary factor how you can retrieve the information. And these are some standard reports like advanced analysis, ancillary statistics, and core statements and all. How you can retrieve that and all. You can play around with this information. Typical. This is a typical scenario where you can see when you configure one application server, data directory is configured. Users connect to this Tm1 application server. Data is stored over here temporarily. At scheduled interval of time, you save the data from this RAM memory to data directory. This data directory is sitting in your hard disk. This is nothing but your database. And when you restart the services or reload the data, reboot the machine, the data which is there in the data directory will be moved to application server, so that users can connect and they can post the data in that particular application server. So this is what usually typical scenario or cycle of storing the data and retrieving the data in the Tm1 environment. Okay. It's all what happens when you load the data, what kind of log files will be created, how the log files will be saved, and who writes the records, and how do we retrieve the information, how much RAM memory increases, and all this kind of information will be is available in this particular slide. Just go through it once, you'll get an idea. Okay. As the time goes on, when we are discussing about administration topics and all, we will discuss all these kind of items, all these kind of line items. And standard security, you just provide username and password and you log into the machine. By default, it is admin and Apple. But otherwise, if you created, if you have created any application server, that there will not be any password. You can create it later. By default, the username will be admin. Okay. These are all the extensions you can see here. BLB file, CHO file, and all these are the extensions. So you can see all these files and you can retrieve the information and post the data. Okay. So in this session, we have discussed about the introduction part of Tm1, point number 1. Point number 2, we have created an application server, and of course, we have configured that through Tm1 s.configuration file, and we have updated that in the configuration Cognos configuration utility file, and we have created an application server. Okay, so when we meet tomorrow, I'll stop it here for today. So when we meet tomorrow, we will be discussing creating an application server in another 2 ways and configuring operations console. How do we track it? How many number of users are connected and what are they posting and what are they retrieving and all this kind of information and all we will see in operations console. How to configure operations console? There is a procedure for that. We will follow that procedure initially to configure the operations console. What are all the dimensions? What are all the cubes that can be created? Of course, I have not given you any insight information on that, but insights on that. You come up with a plan, whatever the knowledge which you have. Sir, I'm thinking if I want to have a finance cube, I would like to have these and all in that. Sales cube, these and all will be there in that. You come up with an idea with that diagram. Okay, how the data is flowing. Write it in a notepad and send it across to me. I will review it so that first question is, are we allocating memory and disk space for application servers? By default, it will be allocated, sir. By default, randomly it will allocate. If you have 50 GB hard disk, 50 GB hard disk and 50 GB of RAM memory, by default it will allocate. There is no standard template that it should be allocated only for this much. Dynamic allocation will happen. Okay.